the blood of Christ. The sacrificial blood of Christ is painted within every book of the Bible, and in the book of Joshua he is Rahab. How beautifully ironic that his death on the cross would complete, corroborate, and revitalize all that was written thousands of years beforehand, all the way back to Adam and Eve and their blood-stained clothes provided by God. It gave the sacrifice a whole new meaning and dimension, perfecting all that was written up until that point. And it would take a greater miracle for them to all be mere coincidence. This is no coincidence, nor is it the works of some highly intelligent scholars and scribes. Only God can do this, and everyone is sanctified by Christ because of the blood he sacrificed on the cross. Jesus' death was the perfect death any prophet could endure, foreseeable by Jesus himself. This does not mean he staged it somehow, as some have suggested. As with all children of God, nothing was planned. Jesus did the best he could, and God intervened. Jesus prayed to God before his capture also, for if there were any other way, he would prefer not to go through with it, eliminating any belief that he staged his own death. Neither did he plan for it to happen on the Passover, or in the same place that Adam's skull was allegedly buried, Golgotha. It was all God. I experienced a similar, unplanned, albeit very well-timed situation during one of my extreme fasts in spring 2014, where it fitted almost precisely within the Lent period, unbeknown to me. I did not have a clue what Lent was at the time, because I was relatively new to fasting, and the first I had heard of Lent was halfway into my fast. In some similar situations, I have witnessed observers of these inexplicably convenient circumstances proclaim I worked it all out in my head, that I had some sort of mathematical genius who planned everything beforehand. How wrong they are. They have not accepted or considered the fact that I was blessed, and again, this was all God's doing, not my own. This was my own personal confirmation of predestination. It was not planned, he intervened. He intervened when Rahab decided to walk that other path. He intervened when Joshua's army showed their devotion to his cause. And he intervened when Christ spilt his blood for the sins of man. All past transgressions, however great they are wiped clean with the blood of Christ. This is how great, merciful, and forgiving God is. He reconciles man of all sins and delivers him from the evil that constrains him, and from the guilt and regret that destroys. And he does this with a simple reassurance: don't worry about it. Amen. Don't worry about it. The damaging effects worrying has on the spirit is great enough. God does not want this. God cannot use it. He wants us to get over these issues so he can use us. All of us. Woman at the window. The ruler of Jericho is in disarray as Rahab fools him and Joshua's army tease him every day, but still he does not consider putting Rahab or her house, which was upon the town wall, under a watchful eye. Amazingly, the king does not suspect Rahab after the spies miraculously escaped. It does make one wonder how she survived up until this point. Rahab tells the spies to run for the mountains and hide for 3 days. The spies warn her that if she is leading them into a trap, they will not be blamed for the oath she made them swear, and God's punishment would be on her instead. In summary, Rahab hides the spies, fools the guards and the king of Jericho, helps the spies escape, and tells them to flee to the mountains. She then practically demands God saves her and a group of miscreants. This woman's brilliance in achieving this is an exceptional accomplishment, and her reward was well earned, to say the least. She manages to fool everyone, and is brilliant enough to save herself and her family by siding with the Lord. Joshua's orders are to obliterate Jericho, yet a woman who may have been a prostitute, and whomever she decides, are saved. There is also some suggestion that Joshua married Rahab in the Jewish Talmud. So who is she? Carved ivory plaques of woman at the window can be found in Syria, Assyria and Israel. I have seen two so far, one in the British Museum and another in the Birmingham Museum, both from Nimrod, and she is believed to be a sacred prostitute, possibly Ishtar, Inin in Sumerian, representing Inanna, Lady of Heaven. Ishtar is also known as the Queen of the Sea and Scarlet Woman, which sounds very reminiscent of the character of Rahab, who let the spies out of her window using a scarlet thread. There are two Rahabs in the Old Testament, this one in the book of Joshua and another in the book of Job, where the proud Rahab is the name assigned to the Leviathan, a fire-breathing dragon sea monster, Queen of the Sea, which is very similar to the monster Labu, who is assimilated with Ishtar and destroys mankind in Sumerian mythology. Rahab is also the name for an angel of death, destruction and the sea, according to the third book of Enoch. The Amplified Bible links Rahab with Egypt, and in the plaque I saw, she appears to be wearing an Egyptian headdress. The name Ra is also the name of the supreme Egyptian deity Amun-Ra, god of the gods. Whoever she was, this particular prostitute was not only willing to sacrifice her allegiance with the disobedient inhabitants of Jericho by betraying her own people, but also daringly and courageously submitted her own life prior to making a covenant with the spies, where her own safety was not guaranteed for such a selfless gesture. It shows that, although she had a choice to continue in her ways and turn in the spies, making it increasingly difficult for Joshua and his army, she chose a different path. With the salvation of Rahab the harlot is a message of hope. The red line is the perfect indication that every man or woman, despite the sins they have committed in their past, and no matter what name or names they may have acquired, has the opportunity to save themselves if they are prepared to make the necessary sacrifices.